In Civ 6, condom usage is very limited among the player base because of all the mistakes we make for Civilization 6. In today's video, we're going to be talking about a huge mistake that everyone makes at one point or another. Now, I'll relieve everyone's blue balls right now. The mistake is not planning correctly. As broad as that is, it is probably one of the things that not too many people think about when playing the game, but if you're a sweat like me, you actually start planning out your moves, you pretty much enter the Matrix and awaken your third eye, letting you Darth Vader deity with ease. As always, let me know down below what mistakes I should talk about next, and let's get started. Now, planning might seem like something everybody does, but I'm talking about not planning correctly and not planning for the right things. It's hard to explain, but I'll sort of show it in this video in a way. So let's talk about the first part. Planning out cities. And it isn't just about settling, it's also about conquest. As a famous man once said, if you see them as invasive, treat them like natives. Exploring your immediate surrounding area is the most important part of the early game, and you really should stop when you get to a certain edge of the map, I guess. They could be mountains or oceans, obviously, but you also want to stop when you get to other civs, or you get to city-states, for example, as exploring past that area in the early game is going to give diminished returns because you actually can't get there or settle there. Not with this monstrosity of a mechanic still in the game, but eventually you do want to explore past these civilizations and explore the entire map. But in the early game, they are going to already gobble up all the ancient ruins nearby, and you're not going to be able to get your settlers and settle past them anyway. So it really is not a good idea in the early game to actually continue exploring past the first civilizations you meet. I guess sort of treat it as like a mountain range or an edge of the map or whatever until you actually have all the cities you need and just want to explore the rest of the map. After knowing where you can potentially settle, place down where the best cities are going to be, and then you have a decision to make. Do you have enough cities, or is it time to activate Genghis Khan mode in the Omnitrix like a Ben 10 character? If you have enough cities and the AI is too far away to really end up forward settling you, then early war is only going to set you behind, as you are going to have to deal with super loyalty problems, and you're not going to be able to actually, get your settlers out in a reasonable amount of time. And the fact that no one gets Golden Agers faster than the deity AI. I mean, it's almost as if they have a secret backstreet crack alley where they suck off the game engine for free Golden Ages. But I mean, unless they nuzzle up to you real close with their cities, it is best to go full-on Ancestral Hall settler spam instead of trying to declare war on them and take their cities about 15 tiles away. I know the Civ Lifer talking about actual peaceful and abiding by everything set aside by the United Nations is sort of different, I guess. What I'm trying to say is, if they are too far away from you, then you really don't want to go to war with them, as with loyalty and with the fact that they'll have multiple cities, it's going to be damn near impossible to actually take them out without suffering through a lot of problems and grinding your progress to a halt. Planning the amount of cities you have is the most important part of the game, and I'll die on this hill. Goddamn, I'll prove it with math if I have to. Let me know if you want to see that video where I use math to prove my point about the amount of cities, but I don't care if you slap that monster plus 20 campus on the table with more vindictiveness than a Pokemon card collector. If you have less than 8 cities at the minimum, it doesn't matter. You're getting force-fed a fat L that game by the entire AI cast. If you do enjoy the video, leave a like and subscribe to not only not miss out on future content, but to grow an extra 6 inches where it counts. And let's get back to the video. Now that we've established how key planning is, especially when it comes to cities, let's get into some pseudoscience that would make NoFap seem reasonable. Telling the future. Now, considering the AI isn't very bright, this isn't as hard as you would think. Of course, no one is going to be able to be perfect and predict the future like a goddamn Disney cartoon or whatever, but you really only want to know where the AI is most likely to potentially forward settle you and ruin your city placement, and you're going to want to try to prevent that from happening by any means necessary. In this game, I refused to make peace with the Mapuche because I wanted that lake city for myself, because caviar do be hidden different. I have honestly never had it. It just looks nasty if I'm being completely honest. So I kept my units there and killed any potential settlers and cities who might be looking to come this way. This is extremely helpful as you're sort of preventing the AI from coming to settle near you, and you could put out your cities as you could take as long to put out your settlers if you want. It doesn't really matter as long as you're preventing the AI from forward settling you. Plus it helps me piss them off a little, which is also pretty nice. But the other thing you could try to do is settle those cities first yourself. Obviously, in this instance, the game I'm showing, that isn't possible due to the loyalty, the fact that the city is right beside the Mapuche capital, and the fact they had a golden age. But sometimes when the distance is more even between you and the enemy civ, and you're only dealing with -5 or 6 loyalty, you could just rush out a settler and claim Manifest Destiny or something and gobble that city up for yourself. In any case, that does prevent the AI from settling cities near you, as if they do, they will eventually lose that when they get a Dark Age or you get a Golden Age. And in any case, this is important, as knowing what city spots are most vulnerable to AI forward settling should be the ones you work on first, and it doesn't just have to be sending a settler immediately to get that spot. Obviously, if it's -15 or 20 loyalty, don't settle that city first. Settle a city that's more manageable loyalty-wise, sort of in between your capital and the potential frontier city you want. Settle a couple of those cities, and eventually the loyalty pressure from all those cities will make settling your frontier city reasonable, and you won't lose that city in 3 turns due to loyalty. Use governors and policy cards that do immensely help out with loyalty. Magnus with the policy card gives about 10 loyalty, and then with Limitani and a unit, you could get up to 14 or 15 extra loyalty with a monument. So -6 or 7 loyalty isn't really the worst thing, unless they're in a Dark Age and you're in a Golden Age, because if that next era comes in, those tables are going to be switched, and you will eventually lose that city. So do take into account what age everyone is in. But yeah, you just want to settle all those forward cities, prevent the AI from settling, because that means the AI loses out on a city and you get a city, which weakens you or weakens them and strengthens you. To all my EU4 players out there, what I'm pretty much saying is that in this game, the quantity idea is better than quality. That's the idea group you want to go for. And let me know if you want me to see some EU4, I guess. I've been having a lot of fun with that game. Now, where to settle first? The age-old question that still to this day has all the scholars confused, one of the only questions that escaped even Stephen Hawking and Einstein's genius. But I have the answer. Not really. It really depends on different games, as sometimes it is better to settle a bad spot for iron if you're going for that early military rush, or other times it's best to get the best city possible because your capital is as productive as the Middle East is stable. And the third potential reason you might want to settle a city is to forward settle or settle for more loyalty towards a specific location, like we outlined in the last section. In any case, every game is different depending on your circumstances, but on average, the best city to get is a mix of loyalty and productivity, so you can continuously push your frontiers while also having a really productive city. If you have that juicy, excuse me, banana rainforest tile with multiple other resources nearby and godly 3 food 4 production tiles, that is a great option for a second city. And if it helps you push the frontier, then that is by far the best city you can get. Everyone talks about settling your first city, but the ignored stepchild known as the second city is just as, if not more important, due to the fact that your capital is always going to be somewhat decent due to the palace, but if your second city is absolute garbage, it just makes the late early game and early mid game a slog to go through. You don't want your second city to be more of a dud than Battlefield 2042, which will happen if you don't settle the city right. You didn't think we'd forget about districts, did you? Of course not. Well, getting +6 and 7 campuses and commercial hubs are almost impossible unless you get a great tile for them. It's fairly easy to do with industrial zones, as 2 aqueducts and a dam with another district isn't that hard when you keep your cities 3 tiles apart like a COVID restriction. Planning out districts is important because you get to see how the empire will eventually pan out, and being able to actually control the amount of yields you'll be getting with the better map tax mods is going to, for lack of a better term, change your game. Getting high yield adjacency is important, as not only do you get the high yields, but it doubles with the appropriate policy card, which every district that gives you yields has. And the higher your yields, the more value you get from doubling them. For example, a +2 campus doubles to +4, which is 2 extra science, but a +4 campus doubles to +8, which is 4 extra science. science, which is twice as good and a lot better for the policy card. Not only that, but rationalism and the like gives you a 50% increase in science if you have either a +4 campus or 15 population, which is huge. Although it has to be a +4 base campus, not with a policy card like natural philosophy. This is big because a 50% increase is fairly easy to do as long as you get your districts in the best position possible. And if you're able to do that, you won't have to grow your city to 15 population, and you'll just get a massive amount of science from rationalism. One of the hardest policy cards to get, but if you are able to get them, then it will give you just insane amounts of yields. And it isn't just rationalism, you also have one for faith and culture. So depending on the victory type and your current strategy, you might want to go for +4 holy sites or theater squares. Planning out wonders will also ensure that you won't miss any due to being negligent or making a mistake, which could be crippling if you run out of room and can't build Broadway, for example, or something else, because the already grindy culture victory type game is absolutely insane and you want to get that through with as soon as possible. In any case, planning out your districts ahead of time as well as wonders is something that most people do, but not to the extent that you need. You literally need to be a control freak and plan out everything, and that would make your game a lot easier, especially if you're still new to the game, because being able to get +4 and 5 district yields everywhere is the difference between getting a turn 260 win and a turn 320 loss, and no one really wants to lose to these absolute dud mentally just defects known as the Civ 6 AI. Now, let's break down all the game mechanics into what you need to focus on to win, what you would like to focus on to win, and what you don't need to focus on to win. Essentially, I'm going to do something a little different, a sort of rough hierarchy on what you're wasting your time on and what you should be focusing on when it comes to planning and the such. What you need to do is simple. Become a Civ Lifer sub. It's the amount of cities and districts, but we already talked about it in the previous parts, so I'll leave that point. You can just go watch them back if you really want to know how you need to plan to get districts and cities. But the other thing you need to plan out is what Eurekas and inspirations you can get and which ones you want to get. A 40% Black Friday deal is nothing short of astounding, and while you don't need a third TV because it's on sale, you do need the cost reduction of techs and civics, as getting them all might be impossible. You know, if you actually build the ancient walls for the engineering boost, stay away from me, you freak. But getting most, like killing a unit with a slinger, or even something like building an iron mine, is necessary. As a wise man once said, genocide is okay if it's to get archery boosted. That was probably Socrates and Montezuma. Aside from that, you don't really need anything else, except for one more thing, I guess, and that is a proper tech pack. Knowing what to research and what to ignore is vital, as in this game's logic, you don't need to know what stars are with astrology in order to launch a Mars colony. But skipping out on wonders to beeline and immediately go for the next science or production boost is usually the best idea. I mean, you don't really need military techs unless your capital's thicker than a bowl of oatmeal and defended by Paul Blart from Malka. You don't need the military technology, and it is better to usually just go for writing, education, industrialization, research labs, and spaceports, and just try to make friends with all your neighbors to sort of act as a buffer and prevent the need to build an actual military. But it is game dependent, as sometimes there might be a free religion up for grabs and work ethic would work really great on you, or maybe you start near Alexander or just Shaka or something and you have to build an appropriate defense. Now for what you want to win. This is sort of like being a kid in a candy store. You want almost everything, but you don't really need it to actually live, I guess. The first thing is more than 10 cities. Now, I know what you're all saying right now. Civ Lifer, you just said build more cities. Civ Lifer, you just said you can never have too many cities. Civ Lifer, I'm pregnant and you're the father. You don't need 10 plus cities to win. You roughly need 8 at the minimum, and you should probably be fine. But what I'm going to say is you should aim for 10 plus cities, and really as many cities as you can end up getting, because that will make your life a lot easier. In all honesty, you don't technically need more than 8 cities to win, but getting like 15 or 16 is going to make the game a much easier win, and essentially guarantees a win after you get your 10th city, in my opinion. While not a necessity, you do want as many as possible due to the fact that more cities will make your yields go burr very high very fast, and that in turn helps you win games. Now, what you don't need. Again, before anyone goes down typing, actually you're wrong, and not only is this mechanic vital to the game, but to human life itself, but you're actually the father of this baby. Come on now, dude. Listen, I don't care. It's not necessary to do this. Yes, it would be nice to plan out and get and help you, but I want to structure this so that I'm talking to a completely new player, and this type of specific mechanic is not necessary and you don't need to focus on. But again, if you do want to focus on it, like you're an architect or something, then fine, more power to you. As it is more helpful to focus on it than not, but again, it isn't necessary, and that mechanic is leader agendas. While it can be helpful to get a leader as a friend, a lot of the time it's not necessary, and you will eventually get at least 1 to 2 leaders anyway to ally you for a research alliance, as long as you don't go around on the warpath like Genghis Khan. It isn't worth it if you're new to do something like build a fleet in a Pangaea map because Harold gets soft when he sees your navy and is tired of needing Viagra. Some you can definitely do, like not building cavalry and getting on Genghis Khan's good side, but don't dance for the AI if their agenda is something you actively have to get out of your way to do. It just isn't worth it, and most of the time everyone else has literally 2 other random agendas that you should be able to accomplish with some leaders anyway, and you'll stumble upon 1 or 2 of them and you can make those guys your friends. If you enjoy, leave a like and subscribe to immediately grow 6 inches, and let me know down below what other mistakes are made other than me, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.